Greetings, lovers of lore. I'm your host, Vicious Venus, and welcome back to another installment of the Whimsical Whispers Podcast. So, today we are going to be discussing about how stories are overriding dependence and female leads. To put it in simpler terms, I'm just going to be talking about strong female leads. So, in the past, girls, women in general, were not written very well. It was often quite hard to come across a strong female lead, a strong woman, an independent woman. However, with modern literature, these strong female characters, they've started rising up, and we are able to see them more often, which is progress. This is a good thing. So, today's episode, I just wanted to talk about strong female characters and why they are good and some great things about them. So, disclaimer, this is all of my opinions. This is all of our opinions. Don't take them as facts. If you have a different opinion, that's completely okay. We're just kind of doing this for entertainment and just to put our opinions out there. So before we actually begin to talk about strong female characters, I want to go over the weak female leads, the characters who are considered to be ditzy and dumb, and basically the complete opposite of what we consider a strong female character. So first of all, these ditzy, dumb female leads typically are very dependent and are blind to all malicious intent. They don't see any red flags, and if they do see it, they kind of ignore it. And it's just really dumb because sometimes it's very obvious that the person they're interacting with is a bad person, but the ditzy dumb female lead just doesn't really care or doesn't really notice, and they continue interacting with this dangerous person. And what I meant by dependent is that they often rely on other characters to do things, to move the plot, to actually do stuff. They rely on other characters to do things for them. And most of the time it's not because they can't do it, it's because they can't do it. They're incapable of doing it. And oftentimes they're dependent to the point where they can't make decisions by themselves. They have to rely on another character to do things for them. There are people in real life who aren't very independent and would prefer people to make decisions for them, but nobody is dependent to the point where they literally cannot do anything by themselves. We're all independent in our own different ways, but the ditzy dumb female lead has no independence whatsoever. Another characteristic of the dumb, ditzy female lead is that they usually never have character development. Never. They are the same from the beginning, and they are the same in the end. Now, there are such things in writing called static characters, and these are characters who don't undergo much of a change. And it's okay to have a static character, but in this sense, with a ditzy, dumb female lead who is always making mistakes, who is always dependent on other people, who is always just silly, dumb, and whimsical and just doing whatever they want to, this isn't good. Because they are weak, they don't know how to take care of themselves, and even worse, they have no empowerment. They don't have any goals. They don't have much of a personality. So it would be perfect for them to have a good character development. However, the ditzy, dumb female lead typically does not have character development at all. And a big characteristic that I see in a lot of ditzy, dumb female lead characters is them being a straight up doormat. There are people in real life who are shy, who tend to avoid social interactions, and just don't know how to say no in certain situations. there are doormats in real life, and I'm not going to show any hate towards them. It's not like they're terrible or weak people or anything, but these ditzy, dumb female leads, they're so much of a doormat to the point where they can't say no at all. Even when they're in a dangerous situation, they don't say no. They don't refuse. They stay silent, or they're just naive to the point where they say yes. And it's very unrealistic because, humans know when they're in danger, but the ditzy dumb female lead doesn't know that. And even if she does, she doesn't say no. She's a doormat. She just lets everyone walk over her. And it's really, really annoying. Now, we used to see a lot of ditzy dumb female leads, and we still do. However, with modern literature, these kinds of female leads have been decreasing, which I guess is good. I mean, yes, it is good. And I really would like to see an interesting twist with the ditzy dumb female lead, but, we can't have everything. The ditzy dumb female lead is honestly something that was so prominent back then. It's kind of hard to believe that it was such a thing, because now when you look at modern literature, the ditzy dumb female lead isn't something that you see quite a lot. So some examples that we found that our friend gave to us, actually, thank you for her. Shout out to her. You know who you are. So we have, and I apologize if I butchered these names, Shujinko from Amnesia, Hinata Ima from Brothers Conflict, Yui Komori from Diabolic Lovers, and generally any female in a harem or reverse harem, or from older animes. Now, these examples were picked out by our friend because these female leads they're typically a doormat. They don't have much character development. They're kind of stupid in situations where even a dumb person would know not to do this. And they're honestly just so weak, dependent, and they literally cannot do anything by themselves. So now let's start talking about strong female lead characters, but not the ones you're thinking about. Right before we get into actual good female leads who are strong, independent, beautifully written, I want to talk about the strong female leads who ended up being complete flops. Now, it's actually very easy to write a strong female lead character. It's honestly not that hard because there are so many strong women, strong girls all around us, and some people just don't seem to pay attention. Some people just don't seem to take inspiration from these people. So, failures of strong female leads, they're typically, you actually see them as much as you see good female leads. And some examples of characteristics of a failure would be such as the whole stereotype of she's not like other girls, and how she's very masculine and tough and strong and not feminine or soft like other girls. Now, it's very annoying to see this stereotype because you can be feminine, you can be gentle, you can be soft, you can be sensitive, and there is nothing wrong with that. However, in these strong female lead flops, they always try to make the female lead so masculine and tough and not like other girls to show that she is a strong female lead. Now, this is more of a problem with society always assigning strong characteristics to masculinity and assigning weak characteristics to femininity. But we often see this more prominently in strong female lead flops. They always try to make her so masculine, one of the men, so we can see how much of a strong character she is. Which leads to this other problem that I see in female lead flops, is that they often put down other characters to show the audience that this character is a strong female lead. If you are a good writer, you would be able to show that a female lead is strong without putting down another character. You should be able to show that. If you can't, then you probably might have to work on it. But this is such a huge problem in female lead flops because we see authors, not just male authors, but like a lot of authors, put down other girls, other women, just to show that this female lead is strong and independent and tough. This is a bad thing because you're putting down other people. You're putting down other characteristics. You're putting down other qualities to show that your character is tough and strong. That doesn't make sense. It's not good. You're hurting another character for the soul of giving more praise to your strong female lead, which isn't what you're supposed to do. Oftentimes, they make the strong female lead show that she's not like the other girls by making her put down the other girls, by saying, I'm not like you, I'm not pretty, I don't wear dresses and whatever, but I'm strong and I'm independent. Which also leads to this other point, which is, why do we need a bad example to show us what a strong character is? I mean, we as a human being are perfectly capable of figuring out what's good, what's bad, without really needing an example, because half the time it's just common sense. Why do we need to see feminine girls being put down for a strong female lead? This is why I consider these types of characters huge flops. Another problem with that is that we always need to see these bad characteristics to accentuate the good. And femininity and being gentle and soft, they aren't even bad characteristics in the first place. They were never bad characteristics. These stories try to make femininity a bad characteristic. It's honestly so dumb. It's really, really dumb. So some examples of this kind of flop character trying to put down other girls to show that they're better is Sierra Burgess from Sierra Burgess is a Loser. If you don't know what that is, it's a movie on Netflix. It's really bad, doesn't have a lot of great reviews. But basically my problem with this is that Sierra, our main character, she's displayed as this, I'm smart, I'm a bit of a geek, maybe a nerd, but I got good grades, and I do not care about my looks like every other girl in the school. Yeah, we don't really need to know that she doesn't care about her looks. You can accentuate the fact that she gets good grades and she's an intellectual person, but why do you need to put down other girls by saying that she doesn't care about her looks, she doesn't care about makeup? There is nothing wrong in putting on makeup and trying to look beautiful. There was never anything wrong with that in the first place. You're turning that into a bad quality to make your Sierra a good person, which is weird and dumb and doesn't really need to happen. Another type of female lead flop that I also see is, typically I find this in romance a lot, is the strong female lead being shown as weak in certain scenarios to make the male lead look strong. Basically what I'm saying is that sometimes in stories you will be introduced a female lead character who's strong, they're independent, they can do things by themselves. But when you enter the male protagonist, all of a sudden she's such a klutz. She finds herself in situations where for some reason she literally does not do anything. She doesn't defend herself. She temporarily becomes a ditzy dumb female lead in order for the male lead to save her, in order for the male lead to look better. These types of female lead flops are often just destroyed and damaged to make the male lead look better, which all ties back into we don't really need to put down other characters to show the awesomeness of another character. So I actually have two examples for these kind of female lead flops, and one of them is Wild Style from the Lego movie. I know this might seem like a really random example, but I thought the Lego movie was okay in general, but I did have a bit of a problem with Wild Style. When we were introduced Wild Style, she was seen as this independent, strong character. Like, she could do things by herself. She didn't need anyone's help. If she got in a problem, then she could get herself out of it easily. She didn't need help. She was independent, and that's how she was shown in the movie. However, there were certain times in the movie where she was shown as weak just to make the main character look strong. There were scenarios in the movie where she was shoved into a problem and all of a sudden she didn't know how to get out of it, just so that the main character to come in, rescue her, save her, and be shown as heroic and great. It doesn't make sense because Wild Style is supposed to be a strong, independent character. You can't have her just be weak and dependent all of a sudden. It's honestly really, really weird. It's very inconsistent for her character, and it just feels so weird. Again, tying back to the we don't need to put down other characters to make other characters cooler. Another example, which was also given to our friend, was, I'm so sorry if I messed this up, is Cha Yun-sang from Inheritor of Heirs. So the thing is, her character was that she works various part-time jobs to support herself and her mother. She's a hard worker and she works extremely hard to maintain the top grades in her school. But everything she worked for was just burned to the ground, turned to ash when the male leads came in. She was put into so many scenarios where she literally did nothing. She's put into so many dangerous situations where normally she would have been able to handle them just fine, but she was shown as weak in these scenarios just to make the male leads seem more awesome and cool and heroic. There is one road scene where the female lead was kind of like about to get run over in the middle of the road, and the male leads kept on trying to take her hand to drag her away, but she just stood in the middle of the road, like not doing anything, which is really dumb. And there was another scene where she's thrown into a pool and she's defending herself and saying that she can take care of herself. But as soon as the male lead comes in, she stops talking and she just watches him fight all the bad guys. She just loses her voice whenever the male lead comes into a scene. She becomes weaker. She becomes less of herself. She becomes weaker and more ditzy and dumber, just so the male lead can be more powerful. We found a quote from this website called comicsverse.com, and we honestly thought this quote was very perfect for these types of female lead flops, the ones who have to be weakened in order to make the male character look stronger. Basically, this website says that women tend to lose their individuality and power in this arrangement. They may start off as their own character, but they eventually get twisted into various dangers just so that the male protagonist can save them. And honestly, this is a beautiful quote. It sums up these types of female lead flops perfectly. They lose their entire character just so the male protagonist can save them and help them. And honestly, that's a really bad way to write female leads. You can't write a female lead like this and call them strong and independent. Well, you still can, but you can't have them just be weak in random scenarios where they typically would be strong and independent. That's just bad writing. Okay, so now that we're done talking about terrible female leads, ditzy dumb ones, and complete utter flops, let's talk about good female leads. And let's talk about what makes these female leads great. So, first of all, typically good female leads have individual personalities and they have their unique characteristics. They have their own individuality. They have their own personality. They're their own person, and you can clearly see that. You know their likes, their dislikes, what they will do in certain scenarios. You know the types of things they'll say in these kind of scenarios. You know them pretty well because their personality is so prominent, it's so vibrant and beautiful that you like reading about them and seeing their interactions with other characters. Another great thing about these female leads is that they make mistakes and learn from them. Something that doesn't happen very often in dumb ditzy female leads or female lead flops is that they always make a mistake, but then they never learn from it. They keep on repeating the same mistake. With good female leads, it's not that they never make a mistake. They still make mistakes, but they learn from these mistakes. They have character development. They change with these mistakes. These conflicts, these disasters, they learn how to avoid them again and again and again. They avoid making the same mistake. They learn, which is something we don't see in bad female leads. Another amazing characteristic is that they are independent and they move the plot forward. With ditzy dumb female leads or female lead flops, the plot moves them, not the other way around. And that kind of shows how weak of a character those female leads are, because your character can be shown as very strong if they're the ones who move the plot forward, if they are the ones who keep pushing the story to move on and on and on. With good female leads, they make sure the story progresses. They're the reason why the story is moving forward, why they go from the beginning to the resolution. Good female leads can do this. Another great characteristic is that they try to make the situation better, and they can make choices not determined by romantic or platonic relationships. They usually put themselves before their relationships with other people. So, some examples I found of these female leads, and I will also explain why I think they're great examples. So, first up, we have Hermione from Harry Potter. I'm pretty sure most of you know who Hermione is, because I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of Harry Potter. Now, Hermione is supposed to be like the genius of the group. She's supposed to be brilliant for her age. She's supposed to know high-level magic. She's very smart, and sometimes she will often overwork herself because she's very eager to learn more things. We see this as a prominent personality trait throughout the entire series from book 1 to book 7. We see her as this smart, genius character. She never once changes. She makes mistakes, and she does learn from them. Sometimes she's a little bossy, which is her downside, but she learns to try not to be so bossy. She learns that sometimes she's got to take opinions from other people. She makes a bunch of mistakes, she always learns from them, and her personality is very consistent. There were many, many times when she was the reason that Harry and Ron got out of a dangerous situation, because sometimes she would save them with her genius and intellect. Another example of a great female lead is Katniss from The Hunger Games. If you've read Hunger Games or watched the movie, I'm pretty sure you know why. Katniss is one of the most independent characters I've ever seen. She is tough. She can get things done on her own. And she does have her weaknesses that do hold her back from certain situations, but they don't completely weaken her to the point where PETA or another male character has to save her. Katniss was honestly, I liked reading about Katniss because I liked reading about how she got things done. I liked reading about how she got out of dangerous situations. She used her smarts, she used her instincts, and I just liked reading about her because she was such a strong and well-written character. Another example I have is Serafina from Unordinary. Unordinary is a comic on Webtoon. You should definitely read it. It's such a great comic. I recommend it. Totally. Now, Serafina, she has such a brilliant character development. Her character development was so beautiful. I loved reading about it. The thing is, Serafina came from a very strict household where she had so much pressure on her. She was always pressured to be perfect, to have like outstanding grades, to always do everything perfectly and properly, and with like she's got to do it with she's got to pass everything with flying colors. That was the kind of household she was raised in. And growing up in school, she was the top of her classes. She was the most powerful kid in her entire high school. And with the help of John, the main character of the comic, she was able to learn to loosen up. She learned to she learned to have friendships. She learned that she doesn't have to always meet these expectations if she doesn't want to. Now, yes, her character development had a kickstart because of John. It was honestly John who helped Serafina learn to love herself and to just take life easier. However, John doesn't walk Serafina through all of this. Most of the time, it was Serafina who had to learn how to get over these things herself. John wasn't the one who always helped her get out of situations. He did make stuff better for her. He did teach her certain life lessons. But Serafina often turned back around and helped John as well. She was never weak because she can do strong things herself. Yes, she needed help from John, but not all the time, not every single time. She wasn't always dependent on him. They had this really great platonic relationship with each other where they would help each other very often, which is why I consider Serafina a great female lead. Next up, we have Lauren from Purple Hykenith, and Purple Hykenith is another character from Webtoon you should definitely read. So Lauren, she has her own dark trauma, she has her own past, but she's learned to get over it. She's learned to move forward. The reason why I consider Lauren a great female lead is because she's very independent. She's strong. She can do things by herself. She's smart. She's witty. She has gotten herself out of dangerous situations by using her smarts alone. I mean, she should be able to get herself out of dangerous situations because she is a police officer. But I just like reading about Lauren because she's not ditzy or dumb, and she's not a complete flop. She's not like other girls or anything like that. Lauren was interesting to read because we learn how she gets through her trauma, how she deals with it, and how she forms relationships with other characters because of the trauma or just in general. Another two examples actually from the same show is Katara and Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, I chose Katara because she honestly sends such a great message. To me, Katara is just telling people that you can be feminine, you can be gentle, you can be motherly, but still be a strong and independent person. Katara wasn't tough or buff or rough or anything like that. She was typically very feminine, and she was very, very motherly. But that didn't stop Katara from being a powerful waterbender. Her femininity wasn't her weakness. It was just a characteristic of hers. And it was never treated as a weakness. She still grew to become a powerful waterbender. She still grew to become a strong female lead. And I honestly really like that because we do need more characters like Katara to show that femininity isn't such a bad thing. Femininity isn't weak or soft or gentle all the time. Femininity can be a good thing, a great thing. I also included Toph because how can we not? She's strong. She's super independent. And she shows that, and honestly, I feel like watching her helped me learn that people with disabilities aren't different. They're just people who have different limitations. But ultimately, they aren't lesser than us or worse than us or anyway. Toph was very interesting to watch. I am terribly sorry. My microphone cut off in the middle of whatever I was saying. So, as I was saying, Toph was very interesting to watch because, like, it was very interesting to see how she interacted with other characters because her snarky comments and remarks were just absolutely amazing to watch and listen to. Another example we have for a great female lead, this example was also given to us by our friend, which is Kyoko from Skip a Beat. So our friend gave Kyoko to us because in the beginning, she was actually shown as a doormat character. She was shown as the ditzy, dumb, stupid kind of character. She was always running around after her boyfriend, doing things for him, never really saying no to him. She was just doing so much work for him and whatever. But when her boyfriend decides to break up with her, Kyoko decides that she has had enough of it. She doesn't want any more of it. And she decides that she's going to become an actress because the thing is her boyfriend is an actor. So she decides, you know what? I'm going to be an actress who's more successful, more better, more famous than him. And in the beginning, she becomes an actress out of spite. However, later on, she learns that she actually loves acting. She loves being an actress. And she doesn't want to be an actress out of revenge. She wants to be an actress because she's passionate about it. Kyoko was a great example because she had a beautiful character development from the typical ditzy dumb doormat character to somebody who is independent. She went from someone who is an actress out of spite to an actress who had real passion. And another example that I do have is actually not one character, but an entire TV show, which is She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. I absolutely love this show because every female character we see is never ditzy or dumb. They're so strong. They have their own distinct personalities, and they they are very strong, independent. They can do stuff on their own, and they have their own little character developments. They learn things. They make so many mistakes, but they always learn from it. And I honestly recommend this show to everyone. Y'all should go watch She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. It's a great show. So, I really would love to see more of these kinds of female leads and stories because, well, they are so strong, they're so independent, they can do things on their own, and I wish that we never ever see another ditzy dumb female lead character or another female lead flop because they're such a pain to watch or read about. I would love to see more good female leads. I would love to see more characters like Katara, more characters like Hermione, because think about it. Did Hermione need Ron and Harry or anyone to decide what she did? Did she need or consult anybody when trying to better the welfare of house elves? Her whole protest about house elves, that was her decision. Those were her opinions. Nobody told her about it. Nobody pushed her into it. She made the choice. She made the decision of raising her voice about house elves. She did that. It was her choice. Nobody influenced most of her decisions. She was the reason she made most of her decisions. She was the reason she was able to get out of her own problems or situations. Think about it. Did Katniss wait for somebody to save her, or did she improve her own situation? She improved her own situation. She didn't need Peeta or Gale or any other male lead character to help her or save her from these kinds of drastic situations. Most of the time, if not all of the time, she got herself out of these situations. She used her wits, her brain, her smarts to do what she needed to do. She didn't need anybody. It was her who did this. It was her who got her out of these dangerous situations. Okay, so I think I'm done talking about all these female lead characters. I've covered almost everything I wanted to talk about them. And I honestly really do wish that we get to see more of these kinds of characters because it's interesting, it's entertaining, it's empowering to see these characters on screen. Not just for me, but for tons of people out there. These characters teach us good morals. These characters teach us how to be strong, how to be independent, and just how to be good people in general. They teach us that it's okay to make a mistake. We can just try again and make sure we don't repeat it. I really do hope that we get to see more of these characters later on in the future. And I think this brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this week's installment. I'm sorry it came out a bit late. We were a little behind schedule, but I still hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you all next week. Goodbye.